Okay, it's running. So welcome.
Nice.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, welcome Pradeep.
Yeah.
If I pronounce it right.
That's right.
You had some challenges both. Elizabeth, you missed your flight. Just arrived today, I think.
Yes.
Did you have a good flight to start with?
I slept through the flight, so that was good. Yeah, any flight that I sleep through is a good one.
And you came from Ireland?
No, from London. So I am Irish, but I live in London.
Ah, okay, because I read about on your profile that you're Irish. Okay, from London. Pradeep is coming from...
Yeah, I'm coming from Bangalore. I slept through my whole flight too. And still I had my jet lag, so I came in a day earlier so that I can recover, and I still woke up at 3 a.m. yesterday. So today was better.
Yeah.
And I'm here. I'm right now in the Polish time zone.
Ah, and what's the difference in time?
About 4.5 hours.
4.5 hours.
Yeah,
okay,
that's right.
But you don't have any jet lag?
No, at least not right now.
Because both of you are speakers on this conference.
Yes.
It's a pity that you speak tomorrow, because I hope to see your presentations before this interview. But I was not able to see the presentation because it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I tried to read a little bit on your biograph and on the proposal that's on the website.
Cool.
I studied a little bit on your tweets and on your LinkedIn posts. Maybe you can introduce yourself, starting with Elizabeth.
Okay, yeah, I'm Elizabeth Fiennes. I work for a consultancy in London called Scott Logic. I did the maths on the back of my hands the week before last, and I realised I've been 21 years in testing, which quite scared me. Like, I've been a whole adult in testing.
1998, huh?
Yeah, first testing job I had was ensuring that the new Euro symbol could print from Windows 3.1, so that probably ages me quite badly. And that's why I've got grey hair as well. Yeah, that's me.
So you're still in consultancy?
I'm still in consultancy, yeah. I joined the company I'm with going on nearly 3 years ago now, and I love it just because of the variety of projects and stuff like that, and you've kind of got to wear loads of hats as a consultant. I find all that really interesting. So I'm still hands-on. I still do the hands-on stuff and get into the code and things like that. But I also do a lot of strategic work as well, which means that the decisions that I get to make and the things that I get to influence go the whole way through software delivery and not just testing as well.
Okay, and you provide training also, if I read it right?
Yeah,
150 hours and 150 sessions or something like that?
Yeah, so I got into an online debate, which is not something I do very often, with someone who was of the opinion that you could teach a tester to be a tester in 24 hours, which I disagreed with very strongly, actually.
Yeah.
And they left it with me, well, how long does it take to train a tester then? And I thought, actually, that's a really good question. I know it's not 24 hours, but how many hours would it be? Again, you think about technical skills and soft skills and ability to advise. And so I sat down with my team and said, right, what makes a good tester? So we went through tools, methodologies, attitudes, even things like influencing and debating, and what do you do if one half of your team wants to use this tool and the other one half wants to use another tool and you're in the middle? Because that's not something that anybody teaches you.
No.
So we put all this together, and we came out at it started off at 40 hours, and then it went to 100 hours, 150. I think we're up to about 230 now, but it's not as catchy as 150.
Okay.
So that's been our mission, is to shape that, and once we did an understanding of what that needed to be, we're actually reshaping it again into the Test Academy for all the consultants who work with us.
Okay, because I read somewhere that you wrote something about compassion for testing.
About the competition for testing?
No, not competition, compassion.
Compassion, yes.
Something you like to bring over to other people who started in testing?
I have found, and this is why I don't go in for online debates, because I find people get very divisive and they defend their corner quite strongly, and sometimes what's needed is a frank conversation rather than I'm defending my corner, and my tool is better, my way is better, agile is better than waterfall. And I think the reason I sort of talked about compassion in testing was to kind of go, well, look, we're a lot of people have moved from V model, waterfall to agile. We're working with many more people than we used to before. So it might be before we worked with the product owner if we were rolling out a vendor app, or we worked with the developer if we were rolling out something that was internally developed. But now we've got product owners and scrum masters. We might have junior testers on the team with us as well. This whole of architects, with this whole world opened up to us of people that we have to engage with, and it was sort of a call to say, you know, in order to succeed as a tester, you kind of have to be compassionate towards hearing a lot of differing viewpoints on what the right way to test, develop, right requirements and all that sort of thing is. So it was a bit of a cry to arms around that.
But it's always been like that, because I always said that the nice thing of being a tester is that you can talk to everybody, you know, because you have a relationship with the database administrator, with a designer, with a programmer, with a program manager, with the customer, with the end user, you know. Yeah. That didn't change. The only thing that did change, maybe now, in the agile way of working, is that what we fight for to be involved in the beginning of a project, it's now getting a normal way of working.
So when you say the start of a project, a lot of people think that's with the first line of code or with the designs on paper, but I'd actually say it's when the architect is thinking about putting whatever conjoined parts of the system together, and it's nice as a tester to be able to sit down at that stage with the architect and say, right, how do we make this testable? Yeah. How do we make this a great user experience for someone to use? And that's where I think our value starts as a tester, being able to take that view of the world.
I agree, yeah. And Pradeep, you have a background of, if I read well, 15 years in testing?
16 years.
16 years.
I just grew 1 year older after I came here.
But now you're changing to being a businessman. You
That's right.
the founder of 2 startups.
Yeah. So I've been a tester all along, and in the journey I realized that I was craving for a platform which is very tester savvy culture, and I didn't find that in many companies that I moved from. And then I realized that it's an opportunity to create a culture which is very tester-centric and tester-savvy, and that's what I'm trying to do with my 2 startups. One is a services company which is called Mulya, which has now about 200 testers, and then we're also building a product where we're trying to build tools that the testers can use instead of just the plain automation tools. There's a lot of automation tools already available, but we are looking to build tools that the testers can use. So through this, we are hoping that we would solve unaddressed pain points for the testers. So
what kind of tools are it about? Something different than all the tools that are already on the market? Or?
Yeah, so a lot of tools are either test management tools or they're automation tools. Yeah. But for me, having been a tester, I needed a lot of support from a lot of tools. Like for instance, if there's a tool that will help me assess the testability of the product, that will be a wonderful tool for me to use, which I didn't have, most of the times. And then, we're thinking about tools like there's heat maps for the users, but heat maps for testers, which can give a tactile feedback saying here's the 97% area that you have not covered at all, right? So that's the kind of tactile feedback we want to bring to the testers to help them improve their test coverage. So that's the kind of the tools which I don't think a lot of companies are focusing on, and we want to build tester-centric tools. So that's primarily what I've been doing.
And are you the developer of this tool or just leading the company?
So I'm playing the role of a product owner and the founder CEO of this company. So that's my role right now.
And your talk here, it's will be about these tools or one of the solutions from your company, or?
So the way I'm seeing it is that for testers to showcase their skill set, they are trying to use a lot of already available commercial tools that are there, and that helps. but there are a lot of tools that they can build on their own, and those who don't know the code, they think that they can't build tools. And I want to give them an opportunity to say, you can partner with people in your team who know the right code. You can play the role of product owner, like the way I'm playing, and you and your coder tester together can build a tool. And so for those who already know the code, this can be really handy for them, that they advertise themselves not by showcasing that, oh, I know Selenium, I know APM, but it's more so like, these are the 10 testing problems I've solved by building these tools, and that can be a great portfolio for them to build. So that's what I'm going to talk about tomorrow in my talk, that you can build your portfolio by building tools and by showcasing, that's how you have solved the testing problems. So that's just one of the pointers of what I'm going to cover tomorrow.
Okay. Because if I remember well, in your bio, you wrote something like, everybody's responsible for testing.
Yes. So, I think traditionally, the QA, the testers have been pushed to think that they are the ones who are safeguarding the whole quality. And I think that's whichever tester believed that, they got fooled into that. And quality is everybody's responsibility. So is testing. Yeah. But what's happening is that people all agree that quality is everybody's responsibility, testing is everybody's responsibility. But when it comes to putting that into practice is where the world is failing. So and I've been advocating my customers and the companies that we're working with of how to make quality and testing as a culture across the company, and not just for the testers or for the developers. It actually starts from the CEO, and I think the CXOs needs to get involved. And we were talking about agile, right? A lot of what's the CXOs that I've seen, they just say, okay, now we got to transition to agile.
Magic transition.
Right? But they don't realize that it starts from them. And if it doesn't start from them, no matter how many agile coaches you bring in, it's not going to work. And this is what a lot of companies today are discovering. And we heard a story in this conference about how how a CEO was fired because of this not so good transformation started hurting the revenues of the company. So I think it is everybody's responsibility, and a cultural shift starts from the top, not from the bottom.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's.
Yeah, I agree. It was kind of because earlier today you were in a debate in the conference room with our chair, program chair, Baris.
Yeah.
It was kind of the same subject.
Yeah,
there were some statements about the role of the tester, but the main debate was on test automation. Must that be done by developers or by testers?
Yeah.
And connected to that, or related to that, is that everybody's responsible for testing.
Right. Absolutely. Everybody should own the responsibility, but they're not owning. So that's where I think we need to be able to influence them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And something completely else. I was curious about, because I looked into your profiles on Twitter and LinkedIn, and I saw that both of you don't use your own name. You are something with Spooky.
I've just changed it for Halloween. Yeah, that's all that is. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
I
nice.
saw that
That's
picture,
really nice.
because it was not
That's
your,
really nice.
Yeah, my daughter did my Halloween makeup last week, so she dressed me up as a zombie. Apparently, that's how she sees me.
Okay, so it's not like your nickname or something that you're a spooky tester, or
No.
Okay.
I just use my normal own name when it's not October.
Okay, I agree. And you, because you're something with tester in your...
Yeah. So I had a blog called Tester Tested. So I started to build that as an identity, and that blog is the reason that actually helped me build a lot of connects. So I continue to use the handle Tester Tested.
Yeah.
So that's what it is on the Twitter and on the LinkedIn. Of course.
Okay. And in Quora, no?
Right.
In Quora, or how do you pronounce it? Because in your biography you said you write articles on LinkedIn and on Quora.
Yeah, it's actually Quora.
Quora.
Yeah, Quora.
Yeah, I didn't find it. Funny thing is that you put a link to your blog, in your biograph, but I saw that the last blog you wrote was in 2016.
Yeah, so when I joined Scott Logic, they said if I wanted to, I could contribute to their company blog, which I was like, I've never worked for a company that's had testers writing publicly for them. And I kind of went, well, I could write anything. Well, yes, there is an approval process. You know, they weren't completely insane, but yeah, no, I tend to write more for the company blog now because myself and the other 4 leads in the company, we like to communicate out what we think of testing and throw controversial ideas out there and see how they land and stuff like that. So it's a good platform and I enjoy using it.
But your company is not only doing testing, no?
They do complete delivery, so complete delivery of solutions. So I tend to be part of, cross-functional teams when I'm with a client.
Okay. And 21 years ago, when you started in testing, did you have experience before in other IT functions or other companies? You graduated or somehow you started with testing?
I did I think it was called Computer Applications Diploma or something like that when I finished college. And in college I did classical studies, but I really enjoyed using the computer to type my thesis up and stuff like that. So I thought, I actually kind of feel like I want to go down more the IT route than the teaching or writing route. So I did the 6-month computer application course run by an amazing woman in Cork called Carol Carey, and she acted basically as a feeder for Microsoft and Compaq and Fujitsu and Dell and all the big IT companies that were in Ireland at the time. So on the back of that I got my first role working for Microsoft, which was amazing, as your first roll out the door, getting to work for a company like that and seeing how they did things even back then was kind of, aspirational.
Yeah, so you wrote something about my tablet was not made of stone.
Yes.
But you are both trained, like ISTQB certification and that kind of things?
I have it, but I have fallen out with love with it because my husband studied for it, having no experience in testing, and got it in 2 days. And I kind of thought, what's this really telling us about the testers that have it? Well, that they can learn a certain amount of terminology within 2 days, and that's great. Speaking a common language is a great thing, and it stops an awful lot of confusion. And a lot of companies I've gone into, I'm sure you found this as well, they call the same thing different things. Yeah. Even within the role of testing, you've got tester, a checker, developer in test, software developer in test, all kind of describing.
And nowadays, dev test engineers.
Dev test engineers, yes, or test ops.
Test ops, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I heard before I came away. And it's all just describing kind of the same mindset and attitude and skills that you'd hope to accomplish to do this thing called testing. So I do think a common language and framework is useful. Yeah. Do I think the ISTQB or the ISEB is the best way to get one? Maybe not.
No, maybe as a basis, to start with. If you just start as a tester and know the terminology, what people are talking about, definitions, that kind of things. Yeah. Logical thinking is still the way to go, and communication skills.
And assessment and being able to be critical and being able to challenge assumptions and all that kind of things is kind of the bedrock of a good tester, really. Yeah.
And what about you, Brendan?
So I got coached by James Bach and Michael Bolton.
Yes.
And you know the stand. That
they don't like certifications.
Yeah. So it's not just they don't like it. It's about. So one of the arguments that even I've done in the past is about how do we really assess the skill and value of a tester? Okay, knowledge assessment is on another side, and from that sense, I've subscribed to courses like the BBST, which gives a deep dive, which has a more objective assessment and all of that stuff. So that's the school of thought from where I come from. I've spent a lot of time trying to convince people to not go for ISTQB sometimes, and then I realized that I'm wasting my time on that. And but here's one thing, right? It's not like I've just gone by somebody's opinion. I'm good friends in India with Vipul Kochar, who actually heads the Indian testing board, and so he and I tried to collaborate and do a lot of work. And once he gave me an assignment in order to review the ISTQB material, and I couldn't go beyond a point. Now, after many years and after all this gray hair, I don't spend my time advocating for or against anything. I just am spending more time solving fundamental problems. So that's the background, and I've really benefited quite a lot from being coached by James Bach and Michael Bolton. It's not just that 3-day class. They took me as a guinea pig for trying out a lot of workshops and exercises that never made into rapid software testing, but I am the outcome of those guinea pig exercises. So I did benefit quite a lot actually from that. So that's the background, and then I started to build my own training programs and courses and workshops and tutorials and all of that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
But besides terminology and definitions, methodologies like ISTQB also teaches you about techniques, because nowadays some people, a lot of people and also a lot of organizations think that test automation, for example, solve all their problems. And I still think that...
Really? Does it?
Yeah. You don't agree? No, I think so. And also they think that, because I always make discussions with some companies that to tell them there are no tools in the market and there will never be there that make decisions for you in what to test, how to test, when to test, the priority,
The thing is, if you're relying on a templated way of doing something, you're cutting down the amount of critical assessment that you're doing of that way of working. You're just going, my template should solve this. And where you run into problems with templates, whether it's for automation or ways of thinking or your approach to testing, is if you are relying on that template, once it starts to not work for you because maybe you're applying it to the wrong context, or it was for a different kind of project or a different kind of person or a different kind of thinking or a different kind of theme, then what happens is you put your brain power into trying to fix something that's not fit for purpose, instead of understanding the greater context around you and going, what actually would be better than just applying a template to this, whatever it is we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, but I think if you just apply a template, then you didn't understand the logic.
But that's where a lot of, if we'll teach you to test in this way, falls down, because they're just teaching to test in that way. They're not going into here's how to do critical thinking skills. Here's how to pull something apart when you know absolutely nothing about it. Here's how to do exploratory testing on an application you've never seen before. Just that approach to things kind of gets pushed out of the way. I talked to, I think last year or the year before, about 400 testers, and my biggest question to them is, what do you understand about exploratory testing? And honestly, some of the answers would make you weep. And it was like, you just have a play with the application, or you just have a look at the integration, because that's where all the risk is. There was no... the people that did come in with the understanding of exploratory testing and the value that you get out of it, I hired them, quite frankly, because this is why I was talking to so many people, was to build up a team in London. But that's where my whole challenge with this is how you test in this way. You just fall short unless you're going deeper than here's just the methods, here's some ways to think about it.
Yeah, but it's a little bit like a lot of people in Agile, they think you have a good reason not to make documentation, to write documentation.
You just put it in confidence.
Yeah, but it's the same with exploratory testing. You still have to think why you do things.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they think, if I do exploratory testing, just sit down and like a monkey puts some buttons or something.
So you mentioned about the techniques part of it, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of difference between learning the techniques at a theory layer and then implementing it. So, we have executed about 300 to 400 projects, so far. And when I do the review of those projects, I ask the testers, certified or not, it doesn't matter, like, where have you implemented equivalence class partitioning? In only one instance, I've seen it. Now, all of us know that it's important in order to segment the data, but when it comes to practical implementation, okay, that's where the challenge is. So I think that it's more of people understanding the value of those techniques and not just learning those, techniques aspect of it. And then, irrespective of whether it's a scripted approach or an exploratory approach, these techniques can be applied. But I don't see much of the scripted testing folks applying these things, although they've learned it through
no, I guess, no.
Right? So for us as a community of testers, as a practice of testing overall, in terms of the whole software engineering itself, we have so many techniques already available that we don't need to invent new things. We just have to learn how to put that into practice. And I think, and I'm hoping that there are more training programs that come in which is more hands-on rather than about reading books and trying to learn some stuff.
I mean, that's the whole underpinning of the 150 hours that we did. It was all hands-on. So we taught, I think it was 4 hours of exploratory testing through that, but on the back of that, I think the testers went on to do about 6 hours exploratory testing, guided by the person who was experienced this. We don't call ourselves experts or anything like that, because there's always somebody more expert than you. So that's setting yourself up for a fall. But we call we're experienced. We know how to do this stuff, and we know how to teach it. And part of this whole journey was actually going, we know this stuff, we do it. Can we actually teach it as well? It was proving that to ourselves, and that proved a fun part of the journey. But I said as it was when I did it, and it was, I need 3 hands to count how long ago I did the ISEB. So, that's how long ago it was. I kind of hoped it would improve with time because there were so many testers doing it. But I'm probably too far away from that level of detail now and that level of concern to really know what the value is in it nowadays. But it was, my husband did it about 10 years ago because he's a network engineer, and he might have been going for a job testing network devices with a company. So I said to him, well, get this and spend a few weeks studying this. He looked at the material and 2 days he had it, and I was a bit, okay. So it hasn't really got any harder then, which was a bit of a shame.
But exploratory testing is also a lot about experience, and you are experienced testers, we are experienced testers. What about if you start as tester and junior?
So
you got into a company where they expect you to exploratory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. So you asked a very good question about what will the junior testers do if they don't have experience. How can they do exploratory testing? So I think it's a question of the necessary training. A lot of companies aren't investing well enough on training their people. So this is causing a lot of issues later for them. So it's important for us to be able to find the right kind of training for exploratory testing. And my problem is that is not available in large scale.
Unless you grow your own.
No, yeah.
Right. So that is becoming a challenge. Now, I wish there was a widespread, capability of those people who coach on exploratory testing, on session-based test management. And mostly people who are doing that today are those who have developed the passion for testing, and they subscribe to those ideas, and that's the way it's actually picking up, right? And that's how the community has grown for exploratory testing. And Now, just as she was mentioning, a lot of people think that it's kind of random testing.
Yeah.
But for me, having seen a very structured exploratory testing, it can be so much more structured than scripted testing.
Yeah.
And I've seen, and I've also personally produced this, that there's far more documentation in exploratory testing than in the scripted approach. So sometimes when people challenge saying that, but how do we know what we have done? Hey, we can give you much more deeper notes than what a scripted testing can ever give. But the challenge again comes is that the business people driving it don't want to hear the story. They want to hear a number. They want to hear a test case pass and a fail. And the other challenge that these exploratory testers are having is that they know that the metrics that are used today are not meaningful, but at the same time they don't yet have a counter metric. To say instead of this you can use this. Now they all advocate, including me, about hey, you need to listen to stories, but for the CXOs, they don't have time, they don't have attention span to listen to stories. So even if you want to tell a story, you got to just tell one story. And what would that story be? And how would people make the choice of what story to tell the CXO? So these are some of the things that I think the exploratory testing community needs to solve. But I think it's in the midway for the community to solve. And unless that part is solved, I don't think the business people will buy exploratory testing at a scale that it ideally needs to have been bought a decade or 2 decades ago.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And because I think we're almost out of time, Pradeep already told us a little bit about his talk tomorrow. I think you will talk about progressive web apps. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about it.
Very quickly, so progressive web apps as a way of developing web software is about 3 years old. I went on a project 3 years ago and they went, we're doing progressive web apps now, and I thought, what are they? So I had to find out very quickly what they were. There's very little information out there on how to test them, how to peel them back to bare bones and requests and understand if this changes, what do I test? So this is kind of the talk I wished I was able to find 3 years ago.
Okay. And there is a difference between native apps or between regular web applications
So progressive web apps are kind of a child of the two. They have elements of native apps, and they have elements of a web app together, but it's which elements to test and how. That's the fun of peeling that onion.
Okay, I'm curious. I will try to visit your talk tomorrow. To wrap it up, this is your first time at TestWarez?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes?
Yeah.
I know, Pradeep, you got invited by Baris.
That's right.
What about you?
I was invited, as well.
Invited also.
Yeah.
So, okay. And you travel around the world a lot to present, or you do this more often?
In the last 2 years, I've kind of realised how helpful it is in sort of getting a message out there, so it's something I've been doing for about 2 years now. And I really enjoy it.
2 years.
Yeah.
What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I've been traveling, quite a lot to conferences in the last, 10 years, and it's been very helpful.
Yeah.
It's been very helpful to meet good people, learn their perspectives, and it helps me continue to remain a student. So.
And do you visit some other presentations during your stay at the conference?
Yeah, I've been to 2 so far today.
You've been to 2 so far today?
Yeah.
Okay. And you will leave tomorrow, about?
I leave on Saturday early.
Saturday?
Yeah.
Saturday early as well.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm from Holland, by the way, so I'm not from Poland.
Cool.
Well, very nice meeting you both.
Absolutely.
And
thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much. And also thank you very much for this interview. And have a pleasant stay.
And thanks to the camera guy as well.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
See you.